Midnight, in the Valley of the Kings. The desert air is cold, but inside the narrow, dust-choked passage, it is stagnant and heavy. Howard Carter holds his lantern high. The flame flickers, struggling against a darkness that has held its breath for over 3,000 years. He pushes the heavy stone slab aside, the sound of grinding rock echoing like a warning. Behind him, his companions huddle, their breathing ragged, their movements hesitant in the suffocating silence. Carter crawls forward, his hands trembling as he navigates the debris of a forgotten age. He stops. The light from his lantern catches a sudden, sharp glint of metal ahead. It is not dust. It is not shadow. It is gold. He holds the light steady, his pulse hammering against his ribs. He leans into the void, his voice barely a whisper in the tomb. "Can you see anything?" The reply comes from the darkness, breathless and trembling with the weight of the moment. "Yes, wonderful things." The seal is broken. The gold in the chamber was not just treasure. It was a resurrection. Tutankhamun, a pharaoh who ascended the throne at 9 and vanished at 19, had been nearly erased from the annals of time. His name was scrubbed from stone monuments, his legacy buried under the shifting sands of political upheaval. He was a footnote in a history written by those who followed him. Because he was forgotten, his tomb remained hidden, shielded from the tomb raiders, who systematically emptied the resting places of the great kings. While others were looted, defaced, and scattered, he slept. For 3,350 years, he lay in total, suffocating isolation. The world moved on. Empires rose and crumbled into dust, and his name ceased to exist in the collective memory of humanity. He was the most powerful man in Egypt, yet he became the most invisible ghost in history, waiting for a light that would not come for millennia. By 1923, the desert had become a graveyard for ambition. Howard Carter had spent 6 grueling years digging into the parched earth, finding nothing but sand and disappointment. His peers in the field mocked his persistence, calling his search a fool's errand. They urged him to pack his tools and abandon the valley. Carter ignored them. He returned to the desert floor day after day, mapping the terrain inch by agonizing inch. His hands were calloused, his skin scorched by the relentless sun, yet he refused to yield. He treated every square meter of rock as a potential secret, clearing away debris with a methodical, almost obsessive precision. The heat shimmered off the ground, distorting his vision, but his focus remained sharp. He was not just searching for a tomb, he was fighting to prove that history had been wrong. Then, the rhythm of the work changed. His shovel struck something that did not sound like bedrock. It was a hollow, resonant thud that vibrated through his arms and into his chest. He dropped to his knees, clawing at the dust with his bare fingers. The sand shifted, revealing the edge of a stone step buried deep beneath the surface. 6 years of failure vanished in a single heartbeat. He had found the path. Carter pushed the final stone slab aside, the grinding sound echoing against the rock walls. He crawled through the narrow, dust-choked passage, his lungs burning with the dry, stagnant air of 3 millennia. He reached the end and stood, his legs trembling from the exertion. He held his lantern high, but the light was swallowed by the immense, heavy darkness ahead. He waited. Slowly, the shadows retreated. The golden light caught a single, brilliant glint of metal, then another. The beams swept across the room, illuminating a sight that defied comprehension. Golden chariots stood stacked against the walls, their wheels catching the flickering flame. Alabaster vases, carved with exquisite, impossible detail, lined the floor like silent sentinels. Statues of ancient gods, coated in gold leaf, stared back at him. It was not just a burial site, it was a time capsule, preserved in perfect, suffocating stillness. The sheer scale of the wealth was overwhelming. He took a step forward, his boots crunching on the debris of centuries, and realized he was standing in the heart of a lost world. In the center of the chamber stood the nest of 8 massive, gilded coffin walls, one locked inside the other. Carter approached them, his lantern light dancing across the intricate etched surfaces. He reached out, his fingers tracing the seams where the heavy gold met the dark, hardened resin that had held the seals for millennia. He began the work. He pried at the first layer, the wood groaning under the pressure of his tools. It shifted, then gave way with a sharp, dry crack that echoed through the silent tomb. He moved to the next, then the next, his pulse hammering against his ribs. Each layer he removed felt like a transgression against time itself. The air grew heavier, thick, with the scent of ancient oils and cedar. He worked with a methodical, frantic precision, sweat stinging his eyes as he peeled back the gilded shells. His companions watched from the periphery. He reached the final, innermost coffin. It was smaller, more delicate, and shimmered with an intensity that made him pause. He was seconds away from the face of the boy king. Carter pressed his palms against the final golden lid. With a steady, controlled pull, the seal broke. The lid lifted, revealing the interior. There, resting against the chest of the boy king, lay a small, fragile bouquet of flowers. They were a final, intimate offering from Tutankhamun, preserved in the vacuum of the tomb for over 3 millennia. The color had long since faded to a brittle, ghostly brown, yet the shape remained perfect. Carter stared, his breath catching in his throat. This was not a treasure of state, but a private, human gesture of grief. He reached out, his fingers trembling, and moved to brush the surface of the petals. The moment his skin made contact, the structure failed. The flowers did not just break, they dissolved. They turned into a fine gray dust that spiraled upward, caught in the draft of his own movement. He watched, helpless, as the offering vanished into the dry, stagnant air like a ghost returning to the void. The space where the flowers had rested was now empty, leaving only a faint, lingering impression on the surface. The intimacy of the moment shattered, leaving Carter alone with the silent, eternal gaze of the pharaoh. Carter shifted his lantern to illuminate the final prize. The golden mask stared back, its surface a mosaic of lapis lazuli and obsidian that caught the flickering light with an unblinking, eternal intensity. He leaned closer, his eyes tracing the lines of the metal until they caught on the base of the coffin. There, etched deep into the stone, were the words, "Upon he who disturbs the pharaoh, death shall lay its wings." The air in the chamber seemed to thin, turning cold and sharp. Carter pulled his hand back, the weight of the warning settling into the marrow of his bones. Outside the tomb, the rhythm of the excavation faltered. The steady, rhythmic thud of pickaxes against rock ceased abruptly. A worker dropped his shovel, the metal ringing against the desert floor like a funeral bell. Then another. Voices began to rise, thin and frantic, carried on the wind. They spoke of curses, of ancient spirits, and of a doom that had been waiting for 3,000 years. The awe that had defined the morning evaporated, replaced by a suffocating, heavy dread. Carter stood in the center of the dark, listening to the panic rising outside, knowing that the boundary between history and nightmare had finally been crossed. The panic outside did not stop the work. Carter and his team retreated into the silence of the tomb, turning their focus from the gold to the pharaoh himself. They moved with surgical precision, documenting every artifact, every ring, and every golden thimble on the boy king's toes. The atmosphere shifted from the weight of ancient curses to the cold, analytical light of modern science. As they carefully unwrapped the linen layers, the team gathered closer. Carter pointed his light toward the face. There, on the left cheek, sat a small, dark blemish. It was a jarring, human detail against the perfection of the burial. The room fell into a heavy, thoughtful silence. This single mark became the focal point of a global debate that would span decades. Scientists argued over its origin, questioning if it was a simple infection, a hidden injury, or the final trace of a forgotten tragedy. The team continued their documentation, knowing that this small, dark spot had transformed the boy king from a myth back into a man. The world watched in awe as the treasures were brought to light, transforming a forgotten boy into the most famous pharaoh in history. Tutankhamun died at 19, but he achieved a different kind of life. His name, carved into gold and stone, survived the collapse of empires and the passage of 3 millennia. Today, we stand before his mask and feel the crushing weight of those years. He is no longer a forgotten king. He is the face of immortality. The curse remains a mystery, a whisper in the dark, but the story of the boy king continues to captivate every generation that uncovers his secrets. If you found this journey into the past compelling, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the secrets of the ancient world. Let us know in the comments. Was it a curse or just a coincidence of history? The sands of time may shift, but the truth of the boy king remains etched in the golden light of discovery, waiting for the next seeker to listen to the echoes of the past. The tomb is open, the history is written, and the legacy of the pharaoh is now yours to carry forward.